Hello, my friends, hello, and welcome once again to stately Vaughan Manor and to the fine booktube tradition of blatantly stealing video ideas from other booktubers. Today, I'm stealing an idea from Fiberartsy, a fine booktube channel which you should watch. It's a fantastic channel. I mean, otherwise I wouldn't be stealing from her, really. I mean, it's not my idea to steal from Fiberartsy. It's Roger's. I dug Roger out of the backyard because, I needed somebody to blame for stealing this. And, always blame the 10,000-year-old mummy, right? Right? Thanks, Roger, for taking the blame once again. So, the video idea I am stealing is why I haven't read this science fiction book yet. A couple days ago, I did a tag called Why I Haven't Read This Book Yet. That tag was also blatantly stolen by another disreputable booktuber from Fiberartsy. Everybody steals from Fiberartsy because, that channel's awesome. So I directly stole this idea because her original video was why I haven't read this science fiction book yet. And there are some science fiction books that I have not read and I really, really should have. I mean, I really should have read these books by now. Let's go through them. What science fiction books am I guilty of not reading yet when I really should have? If I think I'm some kind of well-read science fiction reader, I should have read these books, but I haven't. And one of the worst examples, or most egregious examples, is this one. This is The Book of the New Sun, which comes in 2 volumes. It's, I think, a 4-book series that is packed into these 2 volumes here, but The Book of the New Sun, I should have read this already because this is really, really well regarded in both fantasy and science fiction. It's a science fiction novel that looks all fantasy. And it's really a classic. And I should have read this. I should have read this. I feel like an idiot because I haven't read this yet. I'm not even sure I should call myself a science fiction reader if I haven't read The Book of the New Sun. And why haven't I read it? Well, I didn't even get a physical copy of this until fairly recently. It's actually not that recent. It was a few months ago. But I could have read it at any time. I mean, it's on ebook. So why I haven't read it, I have no idea. I don't have a good answer for why I haven't read The Book of the New Sun because it's supposed to be great. I really, really want to read it. Why I've prioritized other books ahead of this, I have no idea. I have no idea, actually. But yeah, definitely this one. And in that same kind of vein of classic science fiction works that are also influential on fantasy would be this one. This is Tales of the Dying Earth by Jack Vance. So this is the Dying Earth series, all in one handy paperback by Jack Vance. This is another kind of a classic book, which I should have read by now. I really should have read this by now because all I've ever heard about the Dying Earth series is how good it is. And I have like various copies of the individual volumes in the Tales of the Dying Earth. This has the Dying Earth, the Eyes of the Overworld, Kugel Saga, and Rialto the Marvelous. That is all in here. I should have read this book by now because I just should have. And I really look forward to reading it, actually. It's just, prioritizing it. That's all it is. I got to prioritize this stuff. Now, this next one is also something I should have really read because this is a long science fiction series that is very popular. And I read the first book in this series and I really liked it. So why I haven't read the second book yet, I have no idea. And that is Calibans War by James A. Corey. This is the second book in the Expanse series. It is the second book, right? Yeah. It even has a number 2 there. It's the second book. Second. It's the second book. So I should have read Calibans War because I really liked the first Expanse book. And there are like, I don't know how many Expanse books there are, but there are a lot of them. There are enough that when you see them in the bookstore, they're all like lined up in a long row and you're like, oh my goodness, I still have to read all of those books. Well, the first one was really good, so I really should get to the second one. They made some TV show off of this series. I guess that's kind of popular too. But the books, of course, books are more important than TV, and I really should have read this book. I'm surprised I haven't. Now this other book, another book I really, really want to read. Why I haven't read it? Again, my answer is, and that would be this one, Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky. This, I think there are 2 books. This is like a series of 2 books, unless there are 3. I don't know. But I know I need to read this one because, again, all I have ever heard are good things about Children of Time. Let me know in the comments which one of these books that I'm showing you I should read first. Which one should I read first out of this pile of books? Should it be Children of Time? It might end up being this one because this is so highly regarded and it's supposed to be so good. It's big, I guess. What is this? 600 pages. No problem. No problem. 600 pages. Children of Time. It's supposed to be great. I should read it before inadvertently the whole thing is spoiled for me. I'm kind of surprised it hasn't been yet. This one is not a big book, which makes me wonder why I haven't read this yet, since it would take about a half hour to read. This is Rogue Protocol by Martha Wells. I read the first two. I read the first 2 books in this series, the Murderbot Diaries. I read the first 2 books in the series. I really enjoyed them. I even made a video about the first 2 books in the series, like 100 years ago. It wasn't 100 years ago. I didn't start my channel then because YouTube didn't exist. But when I first started my channel, way back when, I did a video on the first 2 Murderbot books, which I really liked. And so I should read this book, and I haven't yet, and I don't know why, because like I said, it would take no time at all to read this book. And I like the first 2. I should read this. I should read this, shouldn't I? I think so. I like those first 2. Now this next one got really good reviews when it came out, and it's been out a long time. It won the Hugo and the Nebula Awards, and this is The Windup Girl by Paolo. Oh, great! It's another name I can't pronounce. Paolo Pasagalupi. I don't know. I could barely pronounce my own name, and I'm supposed to pronounce this name. I could barely speak. So this is The Windup Girl, which is supposed to be fantastic. It's supposed to be dark. It's supposed to be a dark book, but that's fine. I don't mind dark books. But it's The Windup Girl, and I should have read this by now. Because all I ever hear is how great this book is, The Windup Girl. I should have read this. I should have read this book. And then we have another book in a series. Now I know why I haven't read this, and it's because it's super long. But I did like the first 2 books in this series, and this is Demon in White by Christopher Rocchio. This is from the Sun Eater series of books by Christopher Rocchio. I read the first 2 books, and they're really good. Second book is better than the first book. I hear this book is even better than the second book. And there's a 4th book now. Is there a 5th? I forget how long this series is supposed to be. I think it's up to 6 books now it's going to be. I could be wrong. Because it changed. It was originally one thing and then another. But anyway, I digress. Demon in White by Christopher Rocchio. I should have read this book because the first 2 books were really, really good. But it is a lengthy book. It will take time to read. And I was actually thinking, I actually want to read the first 2 books again. And I might just read, once the Sun Eater series is all complete, I might just read the whole series in a row. I think I might do that. And I can confidently say that because unlike some writers, you know, George R.R. Martin type of writers, Christopher Rocchio actually works at a steady pace. He has a good work ethic, and he will finish this series without any doubt. So I will be able to I can confidently say I will be able to read this whole series in one go, which is what I'm probably going to end up doing. But yeah, Demon in White by Christopher Rocchio. Sun Eater series is pretty good. You should check that out if you haven't yet. This next one is a weird one. It's a book you've probably never heard of. And that is this book. This is The Shores of Tomorrow by David Mason. Now, the reason this book is on this list is because a while ago, I got a huge box of vintage science fiction. I opened it, and it was full of vintage science fiction-y books, and I vowed I would read every book in that box. A vow I intend to keep, but I might be 90 by the time I finish it. But this is one of the books in that box. Only the copy that I got, I realized as I pulled it out of the box, was missing pages. So I had to order this copy of this obscure science fiction book, The Shores of Tomorrow by David Mason. I spent 20 bucks on this and got a very nice paperback copy. It's not available as an ebook or anything because it's really old and obscure. Great cover though, man. Look at that. And so this was going to be the next book from that box I was going to read. And I just haven't read it yet because I've gotten involved in reading too much other stuff. I really need to sneak this in. I really need to prioritize the stuff that was in that box. Okay, now we're getting to these books I really should have read by now. The last book on this list is I can't even describe what an idiot I am for not having read it by now. But this one I should have read by now, and this is Ringworld by Larry Niven, the legendary award-winning classic, according to the cover, Ringworld. Now, of course, this is one of those books I've only heard good things about. And it is a classic of science fiction. It's been out forever. I've had every opportunity in the world to read Ringworld, and I have not read it yet. I have a feeling that of all the books on this list that I should have read, this is probably the one I really should have read, Ringworld. What's wrong with me that I have not read Ringworld? I don't know what to tell you. I don't even know why I haven't read it yet. But the book I really should have read by now, I mean really, is The Anubis Gates by Tim Powers. So my good friend, Justin, who has a channel, This Just In, check out that channel. Anyway, he loves this book and this writer, and he gave this book to me, I think in the 90s. He gave this book to me in the 90s, in the 1990s. And I haven't read it yet. When I moved into the manor here, which was in 2000, was it in 2000? I think it was in 2000. When I moved into the manor, this went into a dark closet in the back of the manor and stayed there for over a decade until I did some construction work, and I found this in that closet, and I said, oh my goodness, I haven't read this book yet. And since finding it, I have still not read it. And it's supposed to be fantastic. This is The Anubis Gates. I should have read this book. This book is supposed to be amazing. Sorry, Justin. I'm obviously a fool for not having read The Anubis Gates yet. You know, it's only been 20-something years. Don't rush me. I'll read this book before I'm dead, I hope. So yeah, that was my list. That was my list of science fiction books that I should read. Sorry for Fiberartsy for stealing from you so blatantly, but I do appreciate being able to do that. And yeah, check out Fiberartsy's original video, which I'll tag below. Great channel. You should all watch that channel. It's awesome. And thank you, Roger, for hanging out in the corner all creepy-like. I appreciate that. And I will catch you next time.